What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the zoo. Today, we're talking about how to pick a sight for your AR. There's 27 options, and which one you go with is mostly a matter of personal preference. So, how do you figure out which one will work with your playstyle? First thing to consider is the range you intend to use the weapon. Is this your dedicated long-range gun for the match, or are you going to use it alongside a sniper as more of a sniper support role? Unlike on Rebirth Island, Verdansk has long sight lines that result in most engagements happening 50 meters out or more. Throw on a widened FOV of 120 instead of 90, and all of a sudden your enemies are looking like ants.
What is this? A center for ants?
Add on the visual clutter created by firing your weapon, and those ants get hidden behind a wall of gas and metal. So, unless you intend to use the AR as your close range option, and it has clean irons, such as the SWAT 5.56 Grau conversion, I'd recommend slapping on an optic. A lot of times, I still like to throw an optic on the Grau. But Turtle Man, so-and-so streamer uses iron sights on their AR. You know what else they use? Aim assist. Around here, we don't rely on a computer to aim for us.
Ha! Got him!
I actually need to see my target. I can't just trust that they're still over there and my aim is going to magically wander on top of them. Now that we've ruled out the iron sights, how do we pick from the 26 remaining options? Let's start by breaking them up into categories. You've got red dots. Most of these do not provide any zoom, but allow you to have a single dot as your reticle without any other clutter. There's two outliers that provide 1.25x magnification. We'll discuss those a little bit later. You have hollows. These provide a small amount of zoom, either 1.5x or 3x. However, the optic itself blocks part of your screen, and now your reticle is more cluttered. I'll show you a workaround that makes the reticle a little better, but it's still not perfect. Hollows can be broken down further depending on another attribute, recoil gun kick. We'll talk about this more in a little bit as well, so stay tuned. ACOGs. These give moderate zoom, around 2 to 4x. Generally, they have clean reticles as well. However, they're going to increase your aim down sight speed. As a dedicated AR, sometimes that's not too big of a deal, but sometimes it is. So, kind of personal preference. Next, we have hybrids. These give you the option to run two different optic styles at the same time, but it comes at an increased aim down sight penalty. You have options that mix and match all of the previously mentioned styles of sights, so pick and choose whichever you like. Lastly, we have novelties: multi-zoom, sniper scope, or thermal. These are very situational and likely not going to be the best option for your daily driver loadout, but if you really enjoyed throwing smokes down and using a thermal through it, go right ahead. In previous versions of Call of Duty, there was often an ACOG that was the go-to sight for ARs, such as the VLK. The reason it was the best option was because it provided a clean, zoomed-in picture, and it actually reduced visual recoil. In Black Ops 6, none of the ACOGs reduce a visual recoil. In fact, Treyarch has introduced recoil gun kick to the sights with 2+ zoom. That's what I had mentioned earlier. Let's get into it. What is recoil gun kick? If you look at the Advanced tab when creating your class, the green coloration and the smaller number would lead you to believe it is a good thing. It's not. Normally, when firing a weapon, if you do not provide input to the aim, you'll center back on where you started firing. Recoil gun kick comes into play when you do provide input. So let's look at some examples. Let's start with the sight that does not have recoil gun kick. First, without inputs, you see I center back to where we started. Now I'm going to try to keep my aim as steady as possible. Watch what happens when I release the trigger. It stays where we stopped. Now let's throw on any of the optics with recoil gun kick. Same thing as before. First, without input, it comes back to the start. Now controlling recoil as best as I can. And after we release, I'm now looking down at the ground. This makes burst firing or snapping to your next target more difficult. is you now have to move your aim twice as far to compensate. And in a game with awful servers and where the TTK is measured in milliseconds, that can be significant. So, how does this information help us make our decision? Unless you really need a larger picture and you can learn to overcompensate for it, I would avoid using any of the sights with recoil gun kick. If your eyes aren't what they used to be, or maybe you have to play on a smaller monitor, I would consider lowering your FOV before choosing one of these sights. However, that comes with its own drawbacks, so pick your poison. This eliminates 11 sights, leaving us with 15 to choose from, 13 red dots and 2 hollows. If you want to go with one of the hollows for the zoomed in sight, I would go with the OM3. It has a slimmer profile that will obscure less of your screen. However, now we need to deal with the large reticle we have with the hollows. To do so, go to Customize, Reticle, Shared, then I would go with the clamped view. Any of the minimal reticles, focused, or classic would also be good options that you can unlock later if you continue to use the sight. However, several of those require you to have the full game. Overall, I personally do not find that the little bit of zoom you get compensates for the amount of screen blocked by the sight. Now we are left with the 13 red dots. At this point, it is almost purely a matter of personal preference. However, a few things we still need to keep in mind is how much of the screen is blocked by the sight itself, how wide of a scope do we get, do we use one of the 1.25x ones? Looking through this list, you can see most of these have quite a large frame or base. The loadout screen is not always exactly accurate compared to what you see in-game, so feel free to try them all out. However, the ones with the smallest profile, in my opinion, would be the Kepler, the Volzhsky, and the Otero. Out of those three, the Volzhsky and Otero give you a wider area when zoomed, so I'm going to eliminate the Kepler. Anytime you go with a sight with a higher zoom, your reticle is going to bounce just a little more than a non-zoomed sight. At the low level of 1.25x that the Otero provides, I don't notice that it's significant. However, in your experience, you may feel differently, so take that into consideration. In addition to the bigger zoom, the Otero provides an additional benefit with the Krig specifically. Iron sights are entirely eliminated from your view. On the Volzhsky, you can still see them at the bottom. On the Otero, your sight is completely clear. This really isn't a big deal, but it can serve as a distraction when you're firing, because it'll be jumping around all over the place. So, at the end of the day, my choice would be the Otero. Let me know in the comments below what your side of choice is. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this style of video, drop a like. If you want to see more of the zoo, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, keep improving slow and steady.